So here in this video we will move aside from movies, games and other lesser literary works and dive deep into the creatures, terrifying ones that are seen and described in the Bible, which is actually a book that is a collection of many other ancient books and along with the Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest book in existence. So what are these terrifying creatures mentioned in it? Let's take a look, shall we? Here we begin with the cockatrice. This is a legendary creature that appears in the King James version of the Bible, although it is not a real animal, but a symbolization of something else. In other myths, it is described as a two-legged serpent or a dragon, with the head of a rooster, and it is said to hatch from an egg that is laid by a rooster and incubated by a serpent. The creature was believed to possess a venomous bite or a gaze which is capable of killing instantly, and according to legends, it could be slain only if it saw its own reflection. Closely related to the basilisk in European folklore, the cockatrice came to symbolize evil, corruption and divine judgment. In the Bible, the word cockatrice appears 4 times and all in the Old Testament, and each instance uses it as a symbol of danger or deadly judgment. In Isaiah 11:8, the cockatrice here represents a venomous serpent, and the imagery conveys the total harmony of creation in a future messianic kingdom. And in Isaiah 14:29, the cockatrice represents a deadly enemy yet to come, a metaphor of an even greater threat which is rising in the future. The next here is a well-known name. This is the Leviathan, and it comes from the Bible, yeah. It is a colossal sea serpent, described as a creature of immense power and chaos, often symbolizing untamable primeval forces or a destructive evil. Its most detailed description appears in Job 41, where God portrays the Leviathan as something that is indomitable and wholly terrifying, having impenetrable scales, immense strength, and even the ability to breathe fire, and that none except God can confront it and control it. In Psalm 104, the Leviathan is celebrated as part of God's creation, while in Isaiah 27:1, it is called the tortuous serpent, destined to be slain at the end times, signifying the ultimate divine victory over chaos. The creature also has been interpreted theologically as a demon embodying the sin of envy, and in some mystical diagrams as representing the material world itself. The Leviathan can also be seen with maybe conceptual origins with Mesopotamian, Canaanite and Egyptian myths in the mix, but in biblical context, it is shown as a cosmic threat, a monstrous servant of God's judgment, showing both the power of creation and the inevitability of divine control over evil. Then next we have the Behemoth. It is described in the book of Job. It is a colossal and powerful beast crafted by God, representing primeval strength and the untamable forces of creation. It is depicted as a massive land-dwelling creature that grazes like cattle but possessing extraordinary physical power. Its loins and belly muscles are mighty, its tail rises like a cedar tree, and its bones are like tubes of bronze with limbs like iron rods. The behemoth dwells among rivers, marshes and lotuses, taking shade under the willows of the brook, and even restrains the flow of water, showing control over natural forces. It is described as the first, or one of the first of God's works, so formidable that only its maker can confront and control it, and it cannot be captured by human weaponry or by any human army. Symbolically, the behemoth embodies the strength of God's creation and limits of human power, serving as a reminder that some forces in the world exist solely under divine authority. Its fate is not destruction or defeat, rather it remains under God's dominion, paired with the sea monster Leviathan, showing that even the mightiest creatures are ultimately subservient to God and exist as part of His creation, beyond human control or conquest. The next we have here are the Nephilim, which are these mysterious beings mentioned in the Bible, traditionally described as beings of great strength, size and power, although their exact nature is not truly known and they are a subject of debate. They appear in Genesis 6:1-4, where they are noted as existing in a time before the flood, and later in Numbers 13:33, where the Israelite spies report seeing giants in Canaan. The Hebrew term Nephilim is often translated as giants, but many mean that they are fallen ones or maybe those who cause others to fall. Ancient translations vary, with the Septuagint and the Vulgate calling them giants, while other sources describe them as violent or aggressive beings. Regarding their appearance, the Nephilim are generally imagined as colossal, imposing humans or humanoid creatures, though the Bible provides little physical detail. Later traditions, particularly in the apocryphal Book of Enoch and the Jubilees, describe them as hybrid beings with extraordinary strength and a corrupt nature, also portrayed as dangerous giants, offsprings of angels that came and bred with human women, whose actions would contribute to the wickedness of the world that led to the flood. The next terrifying creature here is the great fish, which is seen in the book of Jonah. It is a gigantic sea creature sent by God to intervene in the prophet Jonah's disobedience. So when Jonah attempted to flee from God's command to preach to Nineveh by sailing into the great sea, God prepared this enormous fish to swallow him, saving his life while simultaneously teaching him obedience and demonstrating divine power. Jonah remained inside the fish for 3 days and 3 nights, an ordeal he described as akin to being in Sheol, or the realm of the dead, which in other words describes a theme of extreme distress and helplessness. The fish eventually spat him out into the shore, precisely where God intended, allowing Jonah to thus submit and continue his mission to Nineveh. The species of fish here is never identified. Some think it's a whale, while other scholars see it as a miraculous means of preservation and correction. Beyond this literal role, the great fish served as an archetype and a foreshadowing of Jesus Christ, who spent 3 days in the belly of Sheol before rising again, linking Jonah's deliverance with the theme of the power of resurrection and God's eternal salvation. On the other hand, the locusts of the abyss, also known as the locusts of Abaddon, are amongst the most nightmarish and vividly described entities in the book of Revelations. They appear during the fifth trumpet judgment in Revelations 9:1-11, when a fallen star, which is interpreted as a fallen angel, is given the key to the abyss, the bottomless pit associated with demonic imprisonment. When the abyss is open, smoke pours out like from a vast furnace, darkening the sun and sky, and from this infernal smoke emerge the locusts, which are demonic hybrid creatures that resemble a horrifying fusion of man, beast, and machine. The biblical description portrays them as horse-like creatures prepared for war, symbolizing the power and readiness for destruction. They wear crowns of gold, and they have hair like that of women, teeth of lions, and breastplates of iron. They also have scorpion-like stings on their tails and razor-sharp claws as well as wings. These locusts are not natural insects but demonic beings released from the abyss under the command of Abaddon or the Destroyer. Though demonic, they still operate under divine permission, as they are specifically instructed to not to kill, but only to torment those who do not bear the seal of God on their foreheads. Now next, here we have the beast of the sea, which is described in Revelations and is one of the most striking and terrifying figures in all of biblical prophecy. Visually, it is depicted as a composite monster, as the Apostle John writes that he saw the beast rising out from the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon its horns are 10 crowns. Its body is like that of a leopard, its feet like that of the paws of a bear, while its mouth is like that of a lion. The combination of these 3 beasts, the leopard, bear, and lion, directly mirrors the first 3 creatures from Daniel 7, but presented in reverse order, suggesting that the beast of the sea embodies the full succession and culmination of those previous empires in one terrible form. This monstrous form is marked by blasphemy. Across its heads are names of blasphemy, signifying rebellion against God and the divine truth. One of its 7 heads appears to have received a fatal wound, a deep and grievous wound, yet the wound is miraculously healed, as an act that astonishes the entire world, and the beast's recovered head becomes a symbol of false resurrection and also of counterfeit divinity, leading humanity to worship it in awe, as though it had conquered death itself. Then next we have the beast of the earth, which is also known as the second beast or the false prophet. It is a symbolic figure described in Revelations. It emerges out of the earth, in contrast to the first beast that rises out of the sea. According to Revelations, its appearance is a bit strange. The beast of the earth has 2 horns like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. This imagery or description is symbolic, as it suggests an outward appearance of gentleness and righteousness, but an inner voice and purpose that is evil and that comes out from Satan. The beast's appearance, although the description is rather monstrous, rather shows its deceptive nature, its lies and false resemblance to something holy and pure. The beast of the earth exercises all authority of the first beast on its behalf, acting as its spokesperson and enforcer. It performs great signs and miracles, even causing fire to fall from the heavens to deceive humanity into worshipping the beast of the sea. This beast also institutes the infamous Mark of the Beast, a sign placed on the right hand or the forehead of all people, without which no one can buy or sell or integrate with commerce. Then number 9 we have the scarlet beast. This is described in Revelation 17. It is one of the most vivid and symbolically charged creatures in the book of Revelations. It is called the scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The Apostle John sees this beast carrying a woman referred to as the Great Harlot or Babylon the Great, who is adorned with purple and scarlet or red, decked with gold, jewels and pearls, holding a golden cup filled with abominations and impurities. Visually, the scarlet beast is portrayed as a monstrous dragon-like creature, its scarlet color symbolizing sin, blood, and blasphemy and war. Like the beast of the sea from Revelation 13, it has 7 heads and 10 horns, a clear link to both the earlier beasts and to the 4 beasts in Daniel 7, which represents world empires maybe. The 7 heads are explained with the text as symbolizing 7 mountains and 7 kings, while the 10 horns represent 10 future kings who have not yet received their kingdoms but will one day share power with the beast, but for a short period of time before the beast is struck down. And yes, now we end with the dragon, which is described in Revelation 12, and perhaps is the most evil of all creation along with the beast of the earth and the beast of the sea, which might be the unholy trinity. It is depicted as an enormous red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its head. Maybe it is the scarlet beast, who knows, but it may be different. The dragon is implied to be Satan himself. His color is red, and it is often associated with war and death in biblical imagery, thus showing the dragon's nature as a bringer of war and conflict. Its 10 horns symbolize earthly power and kingship, as horns in ancient symbolism represent strength, might, and dominion, and the diadems or crowns are its authority over the worldly kingdoms. Its tail would sweep a third of the stars from heaven and casting them to earth, suggesting that the dragon led a great rebellion in heaven, defeated by the archangel Michael, thus drawing many of the other angels into his fall. Interpreted as the fall of Lucifer and the birth of the fallen angels, the dragon of Revelations thus an archetype of evil, a divine enemy masquerading as a king and wielding counterfeit power and ruling through deception and violence. Now those are all the 10 terrifying creatures and monsters in the Bible. So if you like this video, then watch this other one too, and do hit that like button for support, and also press the hype option for the ones seeing this video in their phones to hype up the video to other viewers. Also subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, fam.